Hello everyone. In this episode we will explore AdekoCAM's option for creating cutting plans that take into account the actual shapes of parts, not just their bounding boxes. The difference from the traditional guillotine cut is that true shape nesting provides significant material savings, for example by interlacing curved parts or placing small parts within empty cavities in other parts. The amount of savings varies from a few percent to multiple times depending on the shape and size distribution of the parts and plates. Let's go directly to the second column and see what we can do quickly. I open the settings and select True Shape from the nesting policy options. The True Shape nesting options appear just below. How long the calculator can run is the most important variable that determines the success of a cutting plan. Mostly second or third level is enough to get the best results. Keeping small parts away from the edges is sometimes preferable. When this option is activated, we can ensure that the small pieces would remain within, for example, 70% of the plate from the center. We have defined what small means right below. For example, those having areas less than 400 centimeters square are to be considered small. I may want to use AdekoCAM's smart cutting operation in the most efficient way by increasing the common edges in between parts. In this case, I can activate the Nest for the Smart Cut option here. It is also possible to place smaller panels inside larger and empty ones, such as doors or lids with center glass. In this case, we can also control the interpart margin, which works like the gap between parts with a twist. This variable is the distance of the inner parts from the main part in which they are nested. One of the reasons why it is kept separate from the gap is that, for example, the central parts of doors or lids with glass centers might be processed with large form tools. We use this margin to protect the sizing cut of the relatively small part placed within others from the operation of the large tools. The reference indicates the corner where the cutting plan will be justified to. The unused half of the last plate can be added to the list of plates and be utilized for the next manufacturing process without requiring a new plate setup, which would save some time and effort. Let's have two such modules in Adeko, one with a notch and the other with a diagonal lid. Imagine that you have put several of them into production. A significant portion of the parts that make up these modules are not rectangles, and when they are nested according to the guillotine cutting plan, especially if the notches or diagonals are deep, inefficient cutting plans will form in terms of material use. However, the option of creating a cutting plan that take into account the actual shapes of the parts, that is true shape nesting, makes the most efficient use of the material area by intertwining these parts in the most efficient way. In another example, again we see that both the notch and diagonal edge parts are arranged in the most efficient way, almost as if they were arranged manually, in such a way as to use the least possible material area. In another example, we have a few lid models with glass center and a few panels that can fit inside the lid models, as their center is available for nesting other parts in. According to the guillotine cutting plan, they would be lined up as seen on the screen. However, it is possible to place relatively small parts inside the lids, which saves about half the material. Now let's compare the number of plates for guillotine and true shape nesting scenarios in a characteristic example that will often be encountered in the manufacturing of regular projects. The true shape layout uses about 20 plates of space. Let's go to the guillotine and create a cutting plan. About 22. In other words, we have used up roughly 2 stock plates less with true shape nesting option for this particular set of parts and plates. This means a saving of about 10% with respect to the familiar guillotine layout. For a workplace that cuts 40 plates per day, it means using 4 plates less per day for the same amount of work. This efficiency is at its lowest value when only rectangular parts are nested, and reaches its highest value with parts with large diagonals or deep notches. True shape nesting option allows material savings from 1 plate in 40 plates, that is values as small as roughly 2%, to 1 plate in 2 plates, that is commonly as large as up to 65%, as we will see in the next extreme example. In this extreme example, we will create cutting plans of parts with diagonal orientation or with mostly hollow areas, considering their bounding boxes. First the guillotine cut and then true shape nesting we will see. As you can see, the guillotine used up about 2.5 plates where the true shape fits all the parts within a single panel. That is, true shape option used 2.5 times less material with respect to guillotine option for the same amount of manufacturing. In this episode, we had a look at the true shape nesting option of AdekoCAM, which is an alternative to AdekoCAM's familiar guillotine cutting plan. It takes into account the actual shapes of the panels, but not only their bounding boxes. We have seen that compared to the guillotine cutting plan in characteristic manufacturing projects, it provides roughly 2 plates less area utilization in 22 plates. That is roughly 10% less material usage. We have seen that this saving ratio can range from as low as a few percent for rectangular panels to as high as 65 for parts with deep diagonals or notches. Thanks for your attention.